Hi, AJ.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well,
I was sending you these frantic emails.
Oh, you were? I didn't see them. Oh,
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
I just sent them. I just wanted to make sure I was in the right place.
You are in the right place.
Destiny is here. Hi, Destiny. Do you need me to use my headset? There's a leaf blower somewhere in the distance. I didn't know if that was.
It's totally up to you. I don't hear the leaf blower. So no
I'd rather not
sweat.
be using it.
I just want to make sure you have screen sharing permissions. We had like 40 folks click on the link to join today. So hopefully we have a good number of people, but we'll just like let people.
So, you know what? And I know that Destiny is there listening to our behind the scenes
Yeah. Oh, good.
chat, but I'd like to have the people who join us, I'd like to send them that digital sponsorship toolkit.
Yeah, great. We can put that in the chat for sure.
Perfect.
I love that idea.
They just email it to me, then I can get it to them and they get all the goodies that I talk about.
Yes, perfect. Okay, cool. I see your emails.
Just ignore them.
Okay, I will. How have you been?
I've been great. I've been in Greece. How could I be better? Right?
Oh my gosh,
Really,
nice.
really kind of feeling guilty.
No, what part?
Athens a few days, Santorini a couple days, but Crete, which is like adventurous, awesome. We love Crete.
Nice. I've never been, but my friend Cindy Wagman, our fellow nonprofit consultant, she and her family are going for like 3 weeks next summer, she said, and they're like 1 week will be on a boat. She has 2 boys who are kind of young. I think they'll be like 10 and 7 or something. But yeah, she's been in planning mode and I'm just green with envy. Although I think next summer my daughter goes to a Spanish immersion school, and so I think we're going to spend a month in some Spanish speaking country, probably Costa Rica first.
Yeah, that makes sense. How old's your daughter? She's young.
She's 6.
Yeah, so
yeah, so I mean, and we just have the one, so she can go wherever we go, you know what I mean?
No, I think that's freaking fantastic. I wish I had done more of that with my kids. It just wasn't a thing when I was raising my kids.
Totally.
Didn't just take off for a month and go 2 months, 3 months and go do that. But
yeah, I mean, I think back to when I was a kid, and I mean, my mom was a single mom and worked, and so like, yeah, it would have, I don't think what she would do is she would like send us to my grandparents' house for like a month in the summer.
It was basically a vacation for her.
Yeah, which at the time I remember I really didn't like it. And now I like get it, I like.
Oh yeah, a month. I would love to do that for my grandson. I saw that you're hooked up with Dana Snyder. I saw you mentioned her at one of the. Yeah, I've worked with her on one of my things. I produced a nonprofit summit. She was one of the speakers on that.
Oh, good. Nice.
It is great.
Okay, well, I think we'll start welcoming folks in. Hi everyone, welcome. We're going to let folks trickle in a little bit as we get started on our conversation today with AJ. I'm very excited about this conversation because I wouldn't say that this touches my set of expertise. I've obviously recruited corporate sponsorships and have had relationship with corporate partners, but I wouldn't say this is like what I know how to do best. And whether you have an event coming up, or maybe you're trying to recruit some sort of partnership for your end of year campaign or whatever, I just thought like the timeliness of this conversation was so well-timed. And so while we do let folks come in, and I just want to do one thing while we're doing this, if everyone could help AJ out by, if you're able to, tell us in the chat who you are, where you are, and I don't know, AJ, would you rather hear kind of like what organizations are doing, or would you rather on a scale of 1 to 10 people tell you what their level of comfortability is with corporate partnerships? You tell us.
Right. Why don't we do that? You can just in a word or with a numerical assignation, just tell me your comfort level with sponsorships. Are
Yeah.
you
Okay.
well on your way, or are you, oh no, this is really scary, that's why I'm here?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So who you are, where you are, and either a word or a numerical number to describe your level of comfort when it comes to corporate partnerships, sponsorships, the like. Go ahead and put that in the chat. I'm just going to check one thing over here to make sure that everyone from our Facebook group has the link. I think they do, but I just want to check.
Hi, Destiny's here, and we have Jenny. Yay, nice people.
Yeah.
Cleveland.
Yeah. I know. This season is busy, right? Especially for our nonprofit fundraising community. And so anyone who's able to be here live, I am super impressed with you for carving out the time in your calendar. I know it's going to be worth it. So while people just kind of trickle in, hey, Jenny, love my angel crew. Let me just take a minute to introduce AJ, who's one of my Rolodex members. She is the founder and CEO of Queen Bee Fundraising. I just love that company name. She's based in Los Angeles and works all over with many years of producing events. And what I love about what AJ's work is she's not, just the event producer. She really does a roundabout way of thinking through the revenue part of your fundraising event so that all of that work and energy and effort is worth it. And a big part of fundraising events, special events, is this corporate piece, right? Whether that's sponsors or table buyers or all the things. And so if you look at the kind of giving pie, I don't think it's a shock to learn that corporations are not always the most, not the largest piece, but they do bring in about 5 or 6%. And what I think that corporate partnerships can do on a really significant level outside of funding is like this visibility and credibility piece. And so, oh, look, we have all these people coming now. And so, there's a lot of ways to partner up with corporate sponsors and partners. And so without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to AJ. AJ, you should have screen sharing abilities if you want to share your slides. I know you have a resource for everyone too, but take it away.
Thank you. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. There we are. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Now, I don't have the chat when I'm doing my sharing. So we're going to let Jess be the chat queen for today. And I'm really excited to have you all here because this is such an important piece of the pie in terms of sustainable revenue. It's a new revenue stream. Jess, can you hear that leaf blower? Should I put on? Okay, you can't. This is fine. All right. So I am, for those of you who don't know me, I'm based in Los Angeles and I've been doing nonprofit events since 1999 with my own company. And I've done over 100 successful events and helped some great organizations raise millions of dollars. And that makes me really happy. My little taglines, saving the world one event at a time. So in 2015, I figured, it's expensive to hire an event producer for the entire thing. So I started Queen Bee Fundraising so I can do training, consulting, and coaching to have any organization of any size create successful events and get sponsored, because it's just nobody is born knowing how to put on events or get sponsorships. But once you see the simple protocols and steps, you're like, I can do this, which I love. So I'm going to start out today just by talking about the myth of sponsorship dollars, because it's really adorable when I start with my clients talking about events and say, let's talk about sponsors. And they just think that sponsors happen. They don't think there's a lot of legwork behind it or thought process. They just think we're just going to do sponsorships. And that's cute. But there is no Easter bunny and there is no stork dropping a bundle of sponsors in your lap. So we have to start by talking about what are myths that people think about sponsorships. And the first one is, I hear this a lot, they should support us because we do good work because of our mission. And you do amazing work and you're changing the world, but the truth of the matter is there's probably 5 to 10 to 100 different organizations in your community that have a similar mission as you. So that's not why they're going to choose to invest in you. The second myth is they sponsored other events that are just like ours, so they should sponsor us. And that's not true, because you'll hear this word a lot in the next hour, which is relationships. Sponsorships are based on relationships, and they are relationships building. Those sponsors have relationships with other organizations, not yours, and you will create your own relationships. I will talk to you about that. So don't just look at other people's sponsors and think they should come on. And lastly, this is the worst, is I see people think, well, we'll give them 4 tables of 10 for the 20,000 sponsorship. And that's ridiculous, because there's no way 40 people from a corporation want to show up and go to your gala. And it's especially true that they will not send C-level executives, which is super important. Every seat at your event matters, and you want it to be filled with someone who either can raise their paddle at a meaningful level or at all, or it can become a potential donor and get into your stewardship cycle. So that's super important. So we're going to talk today about busting these myths and what you're going to do to be awesome and to get sponsored. And you can do it. I'm telling you, if somebody told me 20 years ago that I'd be an expert in nonprofit sponsorships, I would have laughed my butt off. But here I am sitting here, because now I know you can do it. And we're going to break this down into 4 really easy steps for you. So we're going to cover first how to create and value sponsorship packages that are worth something to a sponsor, how to find potential sponsors, how to ask them and outreach to them about how to be your sponsor, and lastly, how to treat them once you get them. This last one, I can tell you, hardly anybody thinks about, and this is what's going to put you above the rest of the people asking for sponsorship. So we're going to start off with creating and valuing those sponsorship offerings. But before I even do that, we're actually going to talk about where sponsorship dollars come from. And I've already said it's not the Easter Bunny, so we can mark that one off the list. And I'm not talking about sponsorships from your board members who have always sponsored, because that isn't really a new revenue stream for you. We want new money coming in. So to understand about sponsorship dollars is we're talking about businesses, and businesses don't have feelings. You will not show them the pictures of the puppies in the rain, and they will not cry and give you money. These are businesses. It's a business transaction, which means they're looking for a return on their investment. They will invest in an opportunity you present them. So I want you to, if you can get one thing out of this whole webinar, it's going to be that you're not asking for sponsorship dollars. You're offering businesses an opportunity. That's important. And the opportunity is a marketing opportunity. Businesses need to get the name out. They need to get new customers, and that's part of marketing. And the reason that sponsorships fall into the marketing dollars category, the way that I approach it, is when you have a piece of, when a budget is a round pie and there's slices of the budgetary pie, donations to nonprofit is a 1 to 5% at most slice of this pie. A marketing portion of that slice is huge. And that's why we go. And there is money in corporations for these sponsorships. It's there. They're either going to give it to you, or they're going to give it to the 100 other organizations sitting on the sidewalk, holding up paper signs saying, me, choose me. And you're going to stand up head and shoulders above them, because you're going to be thinking like a marketing pro. Okay, so the definition of marketing is how to promote, sell, and distribute a product or service. Your product or service that you are marketing is your event or your organization if you're going for just a general sponsorship. You have to think of your organization and your event as like Coca-Cola, and why it's going to be the drink of choice for this company to invest in. Now, there's 5 reasons that companies do sponsor nonprofits, and you don't need to write this down, because as just said, you're going to be getting all of these slides, so you can put your pens down and breathe easy and pay attention instead of writing. Plus, I'm going to be also, every resource I talk about in the next 50 minutes is going to be sent to you if you email me, and my email's at the end. if you email me, I will send you this bundle. It's a digital sponsorship toolkit. It's got all my goodies in there that I talk about, and you'll get it and it will start you off. But there's 5 reasons that companies actually sponsor nonprofits. And I'll go over this in a minute, item by item, but I just want to show this to you. Relationship building and maintenance. That's one of the reasons. And I will go over this in a minute. Public perception of altruism. They want to be thought of as nice guys. Positive association. They did an oopsie. They want people to forget it and like them again. Reaching a target audience, meaning the people sitting in your seats or the people that you send email blasts to all year long are the people they want as clients. And sales potential. Sales potential is the biggest motivating factor usually, is you can create a new client base for them. So basically, instead of all the people sitting out in the street with their little paper signs, why are you the good investment? And just like you have to make a case for people to donate to you, you need to make a case why you're the best investment. Let them know. Don't just tell them your logo is going to be seen on a screen of 300 people during a 3-hour gala. Let them know how many touches and views are happening. And that means from the inception, when they sign on, the entire build up to the event and post-event, how many touches and views? How long will that duration of exposure be? It's not just 3 hours at a gala or 4 hours at a gala. It's the months and months and months of promotion that you're doing prior. Will they hit their target market? If you can give demographic information in your sponsorship packages about the type of people who will be sitting at your event or who are followers of your organization, that plays into their marketing brains. It's like, oh, it's $3.50 a ticket. These people are heavy into traveling. They buy a lot of jewelry. They spend a lot of money on their children. Things like that are important for them to know if they're going to invest their marketing dollars. And most importantly, they want to know, are they going to gain customers? So it's up to you to make a case for support of their sponsorship. It doesn't just happen without you doing a little bit of work in it. So when you're creating your sponsorship packages, you need to change your thinking, because usually people will start out and say, okay, we'll do. And once again, I have clients who have bigger overall budgets and have higher goals for their events. So your top dollar may be $5,000, but let's just say a typical gala, they'll say, we'll do 20,000, we'll do 10,000, we'll do 5,000. And they don't think about what they have to offer. They start by thinking about what they want to get. So it isn't just about getting the corporation's money. It's what about your organization has to offer to the business. It's about what they need and what they want. And you can be creative and don't undersell your event. This is what happens when you say certain things. So when we talk about this, your logo will be seen by 300 guests at our event. If you are going to be asking someone to invest $10,000 at your event, that is not going to get them to sign on. However, if you say your company name and logo will be seen over 10,000 times by loyal supporters through email blasts, social media, over a span of 6 months, when you show them all these things here, that will be focused on their business, the return on their investment. Now you're going to say, AJ, we don't have 10,000 people. I couldn't do that. Oh, yes, you can. This is magical math. If you have 1,000 people who follow you on social media and you send 10 blasts out on social media touting your event with their logo is a clickable link, that is 10,000 sets of eyes right there that see it. That's the math you need to do. If you have 1,000 people in your database for your email blast and you send out 5 email blasts saying this is the event and these are our sponsors, that's another 5,000 people. You need to do the math to make you seem as big and juicy and sexy as possible. And that's it. So we saw these 5 reasons that businesses will invest in you. Let's talk about what you have to offer for each of these. Relationship building and maintenance means they have a financial relationship with a board member or you, or they want to have a relationship with you. You are spending money with them, or they want you to spend money with them, or a board member. And here's a great example. I did a gala for an environmental organization in the South Bay over here on the West Coast. And I knew that one of the little beach cities I'd read it in the LA Times. Their contract for waste management was coming up to be renewed. This was millions and millions of dollars of waste management contract. And so what I did was I knew that the mayor of that city was going to be at the event. He was speaking at the event. So I called the marketing people over at the waste management company and I said, you know what? We'd love you to come on as a $10,000 sponsor. And if you do, we will sit you next to the mayor of that city. And they did. I mean, it literally took 3 seconds because you know why? Because they wanted to show that they had an affinity for the environment and they wanted to have that relationship with the mayor, and they did get renewed. I'm not saying that that was renewed because of that, but I did my homework and I figured out who had relationships and where they could benefit. The next is positive association with your good work, meaning there's so many different organizations, especially with corporate social responsibility, that need to look like they care about the community. And a good example of this, if you'd like advertising, is the Helpful Honda Man. So that advert, that is one of the most brilliant and annoying ad campaigns because you know it's fake. But the reason that it works is because these normal guys in these blue polo shirts that say Honda show up and say, you need some school supplies for your class here. We're going to do that for you. It's not huge. It's probably like $1,000 of school supplies, but it makes them look like they are good guys. And that's what one of the reasons that businesses sponsor. Positive association is whitewashing. You have to be careful with this. So an example is Wells Fargo keeps screwing up and doing bad things in the community. I always go to Wells Fargo and ask them to sponsor because I know that they want to look like they're good people. And it's like, forget about the fact we opened loans without asking you, look here, we're donating to the Boys and Girls Club. So you have to make a decision though, if it's worth being associated with them to bring on their sponsorship dollars, super important. Reaching a target audience. If you know your supporters are a good match, go for that sponsor. If you know that you're a pet rescue and people love pets, go to your local pet supply store, not the big box. They have their own foundations. If you are a Boys and Girls Club, go to tutoring centers, go to pediatric health centers. Those are the sponsors that I'd be looking at. And sales potential. One of the things that I promise my sponsors is that they can do couponing. Nothing proves return on investment of their sponsorship dollars is to have an email blast or to have it in your tribute book, which is the event program, to say, hey, our sponsor Jiffy Lube is giving you 10% off with this coupon for being a sponsor. When people walk in with coupons, it can be a QR code. When they walk in with a QR code or a coupon and they present it, that is a way that it is individualized and tracked to your event. So they can actually see that you are sending new business to their space. So when you value it, once you see what you have and you value it, use your past sponsorship levels as a guide. I always say it's like college. College has the reach school that's almost impossible, but you might as well apply. Then you have the gimme, the regular school, the one you want to go to, and then the gimme school you're going to get into for sure. Those are the sponsorship levels I have. I take my successful last year sponsorship, I perk it up a little bit, make it a little more expensive, and that's my reach sponsorship. And then I use past sponsor levels. Make sure that your sponsorship levels make sense. I have inadvertently had it where there was a $5,000 jump and there was almost no difference in the value of the sponsorship. So you have to make sure that when the sponsor's reading it, they don't come back to you and say, I don't see why I should give you $10,000 more for this. Why don't I just go for the $5,000 one? Understand what your area can afford. When you hear me saying these numbers, it's because I'm in Los Angeles, San Diego, Santa Barbara. So you need to understand what your area can afford. There's nothing worse than having levels that just can't be sustained in your local region. And don't forget underwriting and in-kind sponsorships. These are some of my favorite things. I take them, I don't include these things in my sponsorship packages for galas because they are gold for underwriting, meaning extra money from someone else. So one of the things is valet. I always go to real estate companies and get a realtor to sponsor the valet and underwrite the cost of the valet. What do they get? They put their sign right when people get out of the car saying they're the sponsor for the valet. When people get in their cars, I let them put in a cookie with a little note with their card attached, something sweet that the people can see and touch. The closer the guest or your donor base gets to touch and feel something from a sponsor, the more valuable that is to a sponsor. So another underwriting that I do is the after party. I always have somebody underwrite the after party. And one of the things that's simply golden is I always have a sponsor for the paddles. So when we do paddle raises, usually what I'll do is it's like an 8.5 by 11 cardstock with the numbers and the guest's name on the front, but on the back, I have a sponsor's logo. The value is incredible because when all of those cards are raised, and usually the auctioneer will say, let's all raise the paddles to make sure that our arms work. When they do that, I've got a photographer in the back taking pictures of the sea of these paddles with the logo on it. That's a $5,000 sponsorship right there. And most people aren't seeing that. So, and also you have a van because you are doing medical processes in needy neighborhoods. Get a sponsor for the van, put their logo on the van. You have a brick and mortar building where kids come to play, have the sponsors paint their logo or put a banner with their sponsors on it. Super important to give them visibility. Now, where do we find these mythical, wonderful sponsors? There's 3 kinds of prospects when you're doing sales. So we're kind of moving from marketing, taking off our marketing hat and putting on our sales hat. There are 3 kinds of prospects. One is a hot prospect, and that means somebody who absolutely is going to sponsor because they've sponsored before. They love you because you treated them so well. The next is a warm prospect. So a warm prospect would be contacts from your board and committee members that they have put together with, and I'll talk about that in a second. Businesses where you spend your money. If you spend your money, say you do have a boys and girls club and you have a janitorial service, you spend a lot of money with them, right? You should be asking them to be a sponsor. You all have attorneys, you all have CPAs. They should be sponsoring your events. Companies that want your business, say that somebody knows that you have a capital campaign and they want to be your contractor. I always ask anybody who's bidding to become a sponsor for our events. Cool prospects. These are just looking around, seeing somebody who might be a good fit. This is not who I spend my time on unless I find a really awesome potential one. So I start with the hot prospects because they're gimmies. I know I'm going to get them. And once you get those first sponsors, it's amazing. So much easier to get the second, third, fourth, and future sponsors when you have one already on board, because you can say, oh, well, O'Melveny or Myers, the huge law firm, is a sponsor. We'd love to have you as a sponsor. And lots of times that will influence them. It's sort of about letting them know this is a very high elevated, high class group. You should be a part of this. So for research what businesses are supporting other businesses in your areas, just for an example of, if you run across a business that you think, wow, my guests or my donor base would really love to know about this business. I didn't know this business was, call them. Give them your marketing material and then let them know that they should be a sponsor as well. So those are how you do it. Now, how do you get these wonderful contacts? Brainstorming. There is no better way than mediated brainstorming to really get the juices flowing and get those names in your hot little hand. In the toolkit, the digital sponsorship toolkit I'm giving you, you will have a brainstorming sheet. What I do is I spend about 10 minutes at a board meeting at the start of the planning of an event. And I say, let's brainstorm about potential sponsors. And then I say, everybody has their brainstorm sheet. And then I say, okay, let's talk about your attorneys. Write the name of your attorneys. Have any of you bought a car? Let's write the name of the car dealership that you have. They don't have to do anything but write down their contacts that they think. And once you start this in a group, it's electric. You can't imagine all these people who sit around and never open their mouth about helping. When they see what other people are saying, it gives them great ideas. So once you get these names, and these prospects are golden, they're written down, you have them. How do we actually go about asking these businesses to become our sponsor? And this is where, just nod your head up and down, not that I can see it, but it can be scary about asking. I mean, it's scary enough to ask for donors to make a donation sometimes, but businesses, how do we even do that? So let's talk about reaching out to them and the right way to do it. Prospect outreach, which is the first step. Outreach is the first contact to these names that you've gotten for prospects. Ideally, I do this 6 to 9 months in advance. I always say it takes 9 months to make a baby, and it takes 9 months to make a really good event. So let's start at the starting process, because the longer we give them exposure as a sponsor, the more valuable it is to them. If your event's in a month, it's not nearly as valuable to have 4 weeks of your logo being affiliated with an event as 6 months. So not 6 to 9 months. Let your board and committees help you connect, all right? But the most important thing is that you need to make it easy for them. So how many of you have sat at board meetings and seen this face? This face of the grumpy cat is basically plastered on every board member that I've ever met in half of my. So this is what I walk into, and they are not really thrilled, okay? And you need to let them know there's a game plan. So when I walk in, usually I'm brought in when someone's event is not as good as it should be, or it's an inaugural event, and none of these board members want to have an event, or they do, but they're worried because they were embarrassed at the last event. Their friends hated the last event, all of this. So we need to let them know what we're going to do to make this freaking awesome, right? Let them know it's not going to be hard. Let them know they're not asking for money. This is super important. Remember, they're not asking for money. They're offering an opportunity. Super important to use those words. Those you can write down to make them feel comfortable with what they're going to be doing. So they only need to make one touch. You will not send them out. They will not have to mention money or anything. Let them know that those names they wrote down, all they need to do is to make the first touch, make an email or a phone call. If they're on the golf course, they'll say, Jim, you know, I've been on the board for 6 years of this organization, and it's near and dear to my heart. You're going to be getting a call from AJ Steinberg. She has a great opportunity to talk to you about, and I'd love you to listen to what she has to say. That's all they have to say. They have to say, listen, this is important to me. You've been my attorney for 20 years. I want you to take AJ's call, or whoever's call it is, because it's not going to be me probably. But what you want to do is let them know that somebody else will do the asking. So outreach, meaning the actual talking, you only have one chance to make that first impression. It's super important. So carefully select the best person to make that first touch. So if you have 3 people who use the same CPA, find out who has the longest, most strong relationship with them, and have them do the phone call saying, you know, Jess Campbell's going to be calling you. She has a great opportunity. Then make sure when you get that contact name and that contact has been made through that first initial touch, make sure that they're the right person to be talking to. Do not waste your time doing a whole sales pitch to the wrong person. So if I am put through to somebody's CPA at a big firm, I'll say, thank you for taking my call. Vita Kaplan is on the board. This is very important to her, but I want to know before I talk to you, are you the person to make decisions about sponsorships? Because I really want to make sure I'm talking to the right person. And if they say, no, I'm not, they'll say, it would be so helpful if you could help me out and just put me in touch with them with an introduction. Don't just get an email. Have that person either an email introduction saying, this is AJ Steinberg, I'd like you to talk to her. Make sure that you use as many personal contacts as you can. And then script the bullet points for what you want to say when you are doing the ask. And this is super important. So what do bullet points look like? Do not use all these bullet points. You will get this in your digital toolkit. But these are samples of phrases that hit those little neuro pathways to make businesses say, oh, I really am excited about potentially doing this. You'll sound like a crazy person if you just go through this entire list and they'll hang up on you. But choose which ones would be the right words to make this particular sponsor say yes to the sponsorship. So you can look at all of those when you get your digital toolkit. And once again, when you get this toolkit, give me a buzz. I answer all questions. Send me emails, aj@queenbeefundraising.com. You'll see that at the end. But I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you need some brainstorming help, absolutely get a hold of me. So this is the last of the 4 steps. And this is the thing that most people forget. And this is the most important thing to making sure that if you spend all the time getting a sponsor this year, that it's easy to have them say yes next year. Just like your first donor dollar is the most expensive dollar to get, it's the same with sponsorship. It takes a lot of thought and process to get the first sponsorship from a business, but if you treat them like gold, they will come on easily next year. So sponsor stewardship, when I'm talking about it, is basically just delivering on the promises that you gave them. I always over deliver, and then continue to nourish the relationship after you have finished the event or after their sponsorship of your for the year is over. Don't be like that person who just calls when you want to borrow the car to move, someone has a truck, you call them, you say, can I borrow your truck to move? And then you don't hear from them again for 3 years until they move again. Don't be that person. Be a relationship person. And the best start to sponsorship stewardship is having an onboarding email. In the digital toolkit, there is already a sample of this that you can copy, but it says, thank you and welcome. You can never say thank you to a sponsor enough. Every time I do an email or a phone call, I start and end with the words, thank you for their sponsorship. This email lists the money or the goods for the sponsorship and what is included in the sponsorship. I want to make sure right at the start that everybody is on board with what we are giving them and what they are paying. This is so, because I have had it where sponsors will say halfway through the process, well, I thought we were going to be getting a news article in the paper. We want to know right away what's expected. This email will ask for their logo and marketing blurb. Their logo is important to have because you want to have a high resolution logo, but also you need to know about their business. This is something that very few organizations do. Say, we want to promote you, so could you give us 1 or 2 paragraphs about what you do so that we can let our donors know how awesome you are? And then give them a name and a contact info of who will be the person stewarding them throughout their sponsorship tenure with you. Just giving them info@queenbeefundraising.com is not very personal, and it will mean that they have to work pretty hard if they have questions to get through to someone. Assign them a person to be their personal steward for their sponsorship. And then after you get everything, you get their money and you send out that email, you have to figure out how to successfully follow through with what you promised them. And you will create a follow-up spreadsheet, and lucky you, I have a template in the digital toolbox. So you're going to create a spreadsheet, and then you're going to make sure you actually use it. This is a problem with spreadsheets. They're awesome when you create them, but how many of us get so busy that we actually don't look at them all the time? Not good. So you want to get a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet says what the name of the company is, what level they came in, and what was promised to them. It has a checklist for checking off when you've done the things, and a name for the people who are tasked with getting those things done, and a little area for notes. So make sure, if the repeat sponsors, make sure that the logo and branding from last year have not changed. As Jess, who knows all about branding, knows that often, I think it's 3 to 5 to 7 years, companies actually update their branding. So you need to make sure you're not using old branding, because that's a no-no. Triple check that you don't forget to put someone on the step and repeat. The step and repeat is that big logo banner that people stand in front of to get their pictures taken with. There is nothing worse than a sponsor showing up at the event or some showing up and seeing that their name's not on there. That is something you can't fix at the event. So triple check it's in there, and make sure the logos and the ads are in the tribute book, which is the event booklet that you need. Anything you promised, triple check and make sure that you've actually done it. And that's sometimes easier said than done. I actually had an event 2 weeks ago that we promised logo cocktail napkins for the VIP sponsor for the VIP afterglow party. And 2 days before the event, there were no napkins in my hand. So I called the company. They had the wrong date. The date was not supposed to be, they had 2 weeks later. I had 2 days to find a company that would actually, when I say it was impossible, we did it. Not only did we find, and it was, I have so many gray hairs now, somebody to make these logo napkins, which was super important to this sponsor. At the event, I let him know, I said, we almost had a problem. These logo napkins are gorgeous. I said, I want you to let him know. that we ordered an extra 500, which will be sent to your real estate office so that you can use those for your open houses as well. Ding, ding, ding. Right after the event, he walked up to me and he says, you know, I want to sponsor again next year, but I want to do it at that other level where they have the paddles and you have the logo on the paddles. Happy to help them, right? All right, so stewardship before, during, and after an event. Stay in touch. Do not disappear when you get their money. This is the #1 complaint from sponsors. They begged us for money, they took our money, and we didn't hear from them until we showed up at the event. Don't do that. If you have something wonderful happening, like you got an amazing live auction item, you have the superstar auctioneer, call them, send them an email saying, the event that was great just got better. And let me tell you, they love to hear it because it makes them realize, oh yeah, we did sponsor them. And oh yeah, we're a part of the team. When you follow through on your social media posts and your email blasts, remember, they're businesses. They're not people. They're not sitting, staring at your Twitter feed, waiting to see their business name go past. You need to let them know when you have accomplished these things. If you send an email blast, send them individually a copy of it and say, let them know, just to let you know, this went out to 5,000 people today. That is going to put you ahead of everybody else that they have done sponsorships with. Treat them like VIPs at the event. At my event, the board members are not allowed to go to the bar and stand there the whole cocktail time and talk to their golf buddies. That is not a thing. Each one has been assigned certain people they are to greet at reception, walk through, and introduce to certain people at the event who will become customers, supporters, and who are just overall nice people. Those, I call them their goodwill ambassadors. That is the difference of why my events turn guests into donors, is because we create community. Nobody walks into my events and doesn't feel like they are completely welcome and that everybody is a part of something bigger than themselves. So treat them like VIPs, greet them, walk them to the executive director who will say, I just want to thank you. We know that you sponsored us. It means so much. And your sponsorship has helped the Boys and Girls Club keep an extra 50 kids in the program during summer. Let them know the impact. After the event, send them a thank you letter. Call them. I always call them as well. Send them a thank you letter, an email. The tribute book that has their ad in it, that is so beautiful. And if you want a copy of my tribute books, which are the event booklets, happy to send those to you when you ask for the digital toolkit. Send them a copy of the tribute book. There are always a bunch left on the seats. Those are gold to you for soliciting next year's sponsors. I take them all, and anytime I'm soliciting a new sponsor, I either drop one off at their office or mail it to them so they can see, first of all, the quality of our event, how high quality it is, what our mission is, because that's front center in this booklet, who else sponsored. Very compelling to see other big names who are sponsored. So pick up the tribute book and send it to the sponsors that they probably weren't at your event. A lot of them don't come, and let them see what their lab looked like and how beautiful the event was. Plus, every sponsor table at my events, I have 100 silver frames, and in each frame, I make a little sign that says, thank you to Wells Fargo for sponsoring this table. And I put it in a silver frame on the table in the center of each sponsor's table. And my photographers have been tasked before the event to take a picture of each sponsored table. So I have a picture with the beautiful centerpiece and the gold and the silver beautiful frame. And I send that picture to them as well so that they can see how beautifully we did it. Now I want to tell you this about tables. Nobody should be asking or offering 4 tables or 3 tables for the top sponsorship levels. You will never find that many people who want to eat chicken at your dinner ever. What we do is at our top levels, we offer 2 tables, but for any amount of tables, we contact them and we say, if you are not going to be sending C-level executives to this event, we would love for you to gift back these tables so that we can have special honorees and their families sit at these tables and special volunteers. And I can tell you they totally appreciate it because they are scrambling to find 20 people, sometimes even 10 who want to come to your event. Now, after they come to your event, and it's really wonderful because you have followed all my little suggestions for event planning, once they've been to your event, most likely they will come again because it's awesome. but those first times it's hard to get them to show up. So give them the opportunity to be superstars. The table will still have their sponsorship little sign on it. Everybody will know it was from them, but it's a great way to take them off the hook of having to find 20 secretaries who have a Saturday for you to come and eat and dash at your event. Ask them to sponsor right again, just like I got the guy with the cocktail napkins to sign on to an even higher level after the event was over. I always ask sponsors within a week after the event, when I send them the tribute book, when I call and thank them, to say, we'd love to have you a part of this again. Everybody appreciated the impact of what you did. And you know what? We have a sponsorship that's just a little higher, I think would be even a better fit for you. We upsell them. And that is the time when you should ask them to sponsor again. All right. Aside from that, there's nothing else you have to do to get sponsored, right? But it's amazing. I'm going to send you this toolkit. So my email here is aj@queenbeefundraising.com. And I will send you this digital sponsorship toolkit. If you want tribute books, ask them. I will send you my sequencing, those little event booklets, the tribute books, anything you need. I've got resources. If you're interested in any training because you want to know how to make your event as awesome as your sponsorships, which is the best way to sell tickets. I always say, if you ever want to really fill seats, it's just have great events. So I do all of these trainings in person and virtually, and I'm excited to be sharing my expertise with you all. So
amazing. This was, you should see if you stop sharing
Oh,
your screen.
I
Well,
can
make sure
see.
everyone's saying such nice things in the comments. We have about 15 minutes left. And so if anyone has any,
Well, there's a lot of chat.
yeah, if we have any specific questions, feel free to unmic yourself or you can post it in the comments. One question that came up for me was, we talked a lot about corporate sponsorships in relation to special events, but as we enter into end of year giving season, I'm thinking of a nonprofit who wants to recruit a sponsor or a partner to provide a match donation on Giving Tuesday, or a match donation of X number of dollars when you hit X number of dollars, right? And so I'm just curious how you would maybe tailor this approach if it's not for a special event, if you have any ideas, just to kind of put that extra thought in people's heads about how to approach it.
I love that. I actually, now I'm going, oh, that's brilliant. I didn't talk to you. Well, first of all, the brilliance of that is that it's for Giving Tuesday.
Anything, yeah.
Or anything. So let's use Giving Tuesday, but it could be end of year appeals, because those are the two biggest giving times that are coming up. And oh my gosh, if you think about the social media legs of Giving Tuesday, the total excitement and buildup for that, how many social media posts, how many people can log on and see that? That is the gold that you're going to be dangling in front of corporate sponsors. This is a national/international phenomenon. We are hitting it hard. Here's our marketing plan. Don't forget your marketing plan, because just that, as you know, they want to see what do you anticipate? Probably you could say we anticipate 500,000 views. I mean, you could probably get that with your social media reach, and if you get people to start sharing. The question is, who is your demographic? Who are your donors? What are their interests? Who would be a good fit for that? Does that make sense to you? So what kind of do you want?
Well, I love the example that you gave, and so many of your examples. I mean, you did talk about the Wells Fargos of the world, but you also talked about the local real estate agent or the local pediatrician. And I too think going hyper local, especially if you are a local nonprofit, is super duper smart. So, for example, let's say that you're an organization that helps single moms. Maybe you go to like one of the diaper companies, or a pediatrician's often, or
pediatrician. You have the family health cares that are so thing. You have insurance companies that have family insurance. Doulas, I mean, that's a whole other thing. Parenting workshops, things like that. Bloggers, that's a media contact. We used to call it, you have, a media sponsor, but it's not a thing anymore. But bloggers who can help extend your reach, if you can get them on board, you're a mommy blogger, and you can say their reach is, 20,000 followers, that's added to yours. So all of this, whether that's a Giving Tuesday, end of year appeal, remember, just like with donor-centric language for your appeals, we do donor-centric language and impact evaluation for our sponsors. We say, because of you, we're giving girls an education in Tanzania. We're not saying we're doing this and you're sponsoring it. It's like your sponsorship's impact in the world is this. And then you could be saying things like that on social media too, saying, Wells Fargo has helped us find housing for 50 families who were housing insecure. And if that's on social media and they see that, they're looking great. You're golden. Anytime you can show them that you are thinking of them and just promoting them, it's pretty awesome. That makes sense.
Yeah. And it really ties into, I think it was your number 3, like, wanting to do goodwill in the community and that kind of good vibes feeling. You mentioned also, and I'm just going to keep asking questions that are in my brain unless anyone wants to ask their own questions. But you mentioned kind of that 9 months timeline. Which place along the 9 month timeline do you suggest that initial outreach? I know you mentioned there's a brainstorming moment and then there's like an outreach plan, but like, when do you start actually making those asks? How far out from the actual event?
I will have my first board. Ideally, I'm brought on, and it doesn't always happen this way, 9 months before. We have to have, so at like 10 months, like 9 months, we'll have the board meeting where I talk to the board, get my pom-poms out, become a cheerleader of why it's a great event, ask them. The next one will be a brainstorm. So that's 8 months out. So by 7 months, I'm already doing my outreach. And so six months is fair. I would say if you could do 6 months, that's great. I have people who do it for 4 months and that works fine. I had one person who called me with 3 weeks for a sponsorship and I had to decline that one because that's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So for everyone listening, there's a planning part of this. And just like, no one likes to be sprung up on and hit up for money out of nowhere. I think we just all need to be really mindful of that. So if you're like, oh, we're going to do an event and it's in 3 months, it's like, are you going to be able to do an event well that involves all the planning and the sponsorship and the recruitment that is going to make your event as successful as you want it to be? So that's super helpful. What about you guys? Anyone else have any questions for AJ while we have her, the expert? Or does anyone want to even do like a little brainstorm? I'm sure AJ would be happy to brainstorm with you if you're like, we're a nonprofit that does this and we're having trouble figuring out what we would offer, who we would go to. Speak now, because this is, she gets paid the big bucks to do this for her clients.
I am happy to go. This is Amanda.
Yes.
Hi, Jess.
Hi.
I didn't know where to raise my hand in a screen. So AJ, this is wonderful. This is like, your approach is so organized and happy. Like, you're not dreading doing corporate sponsorship. It's like, it's a good thing. We've never done, I work at a nonprofit that's a girls civic leadership program for girls in 4th to 8th grade. And we don't typically have, we have donors and we have sort of foundation gifts, but we don't have, I don't have corporate sponsors yet, except our bank. But we have an election every year that we hold at a beautiful playhouse. And it would be like, I love your idea of the valet parking. And like, I'm thinking of ways that we could put corporate sponsorship in there. We don't really have tables, but we probably could fit some tables in there. It's more a seated event with presentations and an election. And then we do have a little bit of a, cupcakes and lemonade afterwards for the girls. Where would you see sponsorship things in there?
I see lots of it. And for you, when you talk to some people would look at this and say, well, 4th to 8th grade girls don't really do much consumerism per se, but every 4th to 8th grade girl has a mother and a father and a grandmother and a grandfather, right? So we have to start looking at that. It's family. So your corporations are looking at for corporations or local businesses that serve families. I would absolutely do orthodontists. I would do,
Oh, smart.
yeah, so all of these things that a family would say, we just wrote a check for them, those are the people who are your potential sponsors. I would do a tribute book. I don't, and this is really specific, so email me afterwards. We'll set up a time to chat and we'll get more into the granular about this. But basically, when they're sitting down, if there's a booklet that has little information, not only about your election, which I don't even know what that is, but about your mission. It has your sponsors in it. It's a good investment to do that. And then if you have screens, you put sponsor loops on the screens and you do sponsor promotions, all sorts of different things. We'll talk about what that specifically, but you see sort of, you start thinking every surface could be a sponsorship and anybody who a family would use and spend their money at is a potential prospect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Let's go to Destiny, and then we have a question in the chat from Gail.
Hi, this has been super helpful. My organization's been around for 29 years, but our development team has all been here about a year or less. So there's a lot of transition kind of all at once. And so we have some really well-established relationships with people and businesses in the community who have an affinity for our organization. But we've seen a lot of them just be quite stagnant in the levels that they support us at for our events. The event is in its 14th year this year. So what is your advice to kind of get some of those people who've maybe been at the lowest level for many years to bump up to the next step and kind of get them to have an even greater buy-in?
Okay, and that's a great question, Destiny. And that's something a lot of people talk about. Even when I talk to people about donors, they say, my donor's been at this level forever. It's like, well, have you asked them to go higher or given them a reason to go higher? No. Well, the thing is, you need to go and you need to ask these companies who have been at X level forever. You need to approach them, thank them for their long-term support, and let them know you have an opportunity. Everybody burn that word into your brain. Let them know you have an opportunity that you think is an even better fit and will give them more visibility with your support base. And then show them something sexy. So if they've always just had an ad in the tribute book, let them know we just decided that we will have a tabling opportunity for 4 different vendors who are sponsors. And a tabling opportunity is if they're a travel agency, if they have such a thing, or if they're a cruise line, let them put a table with the brochures there and say sponsored by On the Waterways. And then a tabling opportunity is super valuable to a sponsor, offering them an opportunity to get coupons or Q codes into the hands of your supporters in the lead up to the event. Say, we will have 10,000 people see our email blast prior to the event. We'd love to have a clickable link to a QR code or a QR code that we can send them saying, this is our sponsor. They're offering a free meal on Thursdays. Use this QR code. Let them know that you have ways to get them more business through their sponsorship. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you have to ask and you have to come up with something wonderful, even if it's, so just to talk about events, is I do not do gift bags anymore. I refuse to stuff gift bags that are left behind with junk. And I get great arms from lifting thousands of pounds of stuff and putting it together. What we do is we have a thank you gift that we give to the guests as they leave. It is not on the table, it will be left behind, but it's an opportunity to thank guests. The last thing that happens before they go to the valet is there's a table with volunteers who thank them for coming and hand them a little bunch of cookies that are tied up. Those are sponsored. That's a great sponsorship opportunity. Once again, the tag of the sponsor is on the cookies, tied on. It says it was sweet of you to come, and the back has their logo. So those are ways to get wonderful little sponsor perks that will be enticing for them to step up a bit.
Love that. Okay, for our last question, let's go to Gail's here in the chat. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's the benefits. Okay, so she's basically, and Gail, I don't know where you are, if you're still on here. Yes, I see you, Gail. So basically you're saying having set sponsorship packages works for larger things, but I always say be creative. I think I said that at one of my slides. Always feel free, if you know of a local business that would benefit in a specific way, go to them and say, we would love to have you be a part of this. It's a great opportunity because we can send you business. Let's talk about sponsorships and what would be the most beneficial to you. And then create it. Know in advance what you'd like. So say, would you like to have a table and have a QR code that people can scan while they're at the table at the event? Or would you like to send a QR code to get people to go to your shoe repair? Whatever it is, I hope this makes sense, is that local businesses want the community to know that they're sponsoring these wonderful organizations, and they want them to come and spend money at their businesses. So that is a part of what you need to do with local businesses. And absolutely, I will always ask, and this is something I teach it in my sponsorship workshop, but I always say, is there anything you don't see in the sponsorship package that you would like to see? And that is something that almost no organizations are asking. And when we ask that, they'll say yes, and they'll tell you what it is. And that's when you start putting together their special package and find out what their comfort level is that first time to come in at. Be generous the first time, bring them in at a level that they feel comfortable with. But the second time, for the second of sponsorship, say, look how great this was. We'd like to bring you in at a higher level. It'll include everything you had, but we'll add X, Y, and Z.
Love that. I love this all so much. You all asked really great questions. This was really helpful. And AJ, thank you so much for so many like in real life examples of how to do this, the different ways to approach it, all of it. It was so good. Do you want one more time to just throw your email in the chat here? So if anyone wants to copy it, they can.
Sure.
And AJ, do you have any social channels, or where do you like to hang out? Or are you on your website? What's the best place for people, again, to find you?
Okay, hold on. All right, so there's my email, and I am on social media, but not a lot, and you will laugh. I'm literally, if I found more time for social media, I'd be on social media more. There's a lot of events happening.
That's amazing. No, I mean, this is a conversation for a different day, but
yeah, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and I am on Facebook, very little on Pinterest and all those other things.
awesome.
Twitter,
Awesome.
I do follow, so that's a good thing.
Nice, nice. Well, this is so helpful. Thank you everyone very much, and have a great rest of your Wednesday. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.